Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for the youorns 10-minute take on, Sheffield United versus Watford at Bramall Lane. This was, of course, as the rest of these games are going to be, very important. And Watford did not take full opportunity to take this game and get the 3 points. They were very good in the first half, I thought, but the problem for Watford today was their finishing ability, the ability to put the ball in the back of the net. Now, it's the most difficult thing to do in football, but Watford had some very strong chances today in the first half to do just that, put the ball in the back of the net. Keenan Davis had two golden opportunities. One of them was more or less a one-on-one situation with a defender right on him, and he just could not get purchase on the ball that would have perhaps given Watford that lead had he been able to strike the ball. Unfortunately, it did not come together. And then there was a ball set piece from Ken Sema that came in. Keenan Davis got his head onto it, but he headed it up in the air, I believe it was, and not direct at goal. So Keenan Davis is having a crisis of confidence, to say the least, at the moment. He's not scored since October. And I think in a game like this one, goals obviously would have been needed to win this game. But in a game like this, your main man, who's leading the line at the very top of the pitch, needs to be able to score. And he had been getting closer and closer to scoring in recent games. He had a few chances against West Bromwich Albion, two really golden opportunities. And I think, again, he is suffering from lack of confidence. It happens to every striker. Every striker goes through a purple patch. Sometimes that purple patch is 5 or 6 games where they don't score. Sometimes it's 10 games. Sometimes it's 3 months. Sometimes it's 5 months. That's what it is for Keenan Davis now. He's not scored since October, and we're going to be playing a game in the month of March. The next time we play, that will be against Preston North End. And so Watford now have a goal scorer who is not scoring any goals. And now we've got 12 games left of this season. And for me, what needed to be done today was the manager subbing off Keenan Davis in the 58th minute. That's what I think needed to happen, or maybe even sub him off at halftime. But instead, Keenan Davis was allowed to stay on the pitch, and he had one or two other opportunities, did not get there, just wasn't falling for him. And that's what happens when you lack confidence, when you're not scoring. You have opportunities that you would normally convert in your sleep that you don't get to convert, or they just elude you. And I think what the manager needed to do is sub Keenan Davis off in the 58th minute. But what he did do critically was sub off Imran Louza. Now, Imran Louza started the game. It's his first start since October the 19th. And Imran Louza was subbed off in the 58th minute. Now, from what everyone is saying on the Watford end is that, well, he subbed him off to manage his minutes. But I'm sorry, you can't be doing that in a game like this, in a cup final like this, when you have 13 games to go in your season and you're trying to chase a playoff spot down, and you are now playing against Sheffield United, a team that you've been playing better than for much of that first half. Watford controlled it and had more of the possession. And in the second half, you know that Sheffield United are going to make a push at you. They're going to make adjustments. They started to move the ball a lot quicker, even quicker than they had. The tempo of the game was fast. It was lively. Both sides were in it. I think Watford acquitted themselves well in that first half, but they just didn't finish off the opportunities. But the thing is, in the second half, you know that the home side is going to make an adjustment, and the manager cannot do anything with that midfield area. He has got to leave that as it is. Has to. That's not where you need to change the game. You need to change it at the top of the pitch. But the manager didn't do that today, and I think that hurt Watford in a bit in the main. Now, that there are other reasons Watford lost the game. Obviously, Sheffield United were a lot better in the second half than they were in the first, and the adjustments that Sheffield United made affected the game and impacted the game much, much more. Sheffield United looked more fluid in the second half, more dangerous in the second half, and Watford were not dangerous enough, not intense enough. I saw Sarr several times not jumping up for that second ball in open play. He does that a lot in a lot of these games, where he will not jump up with the opposing player for that second ball. You've got to be aggressive. You've got to jump for that second ball. And he doesn't do it in open play. He doesn't. And I mean in open play, I'm talking about in the wide areas of the pitch, or in the open play of the pitch, in the middle of the park. He won't jump up for the ball. He just won't do it. Now, on the defensive side, when he has to defend, he will jump when the cross comes in. But when it comes to actually jumping in the open field to try to win the ball in the air, he will not have any of it. He doesn't want to touch that. And he needs to be more aggressive there. He needs to be willing to take that chance. Have some confidence in your ability to jump for that ball. It's a fundamental aspect of football. You've got to be aggressive for the ball. Win that second ball in the air. Jump for the thing. So that was my thing about Sarr today. Sarr mercurial. He has some very good opportunities in this game. He looked very good down the right side, but it was very, very hit and miss, as it has been this season, and some might say longer than that, for Ismaila Sarr at Watford. Drifts in and out of games, wasn't in this game enough, was a bit of a flash in the pan today for me, and I would have liked to see more from him. He has some very good moments, had some good bursting runs down that right side, but it was just the final ball for him. For me, Ismaila Sarr is a player who's better when he's not having to think about something on the pitch. When he's instinctual, when he's very clear and focused, and he just has an eye for goal and take on the ball, he's really good. But when he's coming out from the open play down that right side, and then he has to make a decision of where that ball has to go, at times he's not as good. Now, look, he's been a great assist man this season. He's assisted on a number of goals this season, and that has been very good. He's been very incisive in that way. But when he's bringing up the ball down that right side, a lot of times there's indecision. And when he's on the left, same thing. A lot of indecision and hesitancy. And so that, for me, are things about his game he needs to clean up and be better at. But this isn't the reason that Watford lost the game. I think there's a number of reasons. Part of it is obviously Sheffield United. You got to give credit to them. They played well enough to deserve the win, and they did deserve the win in the end. It was an unfortunate own goal in the 73rd minute off of Ryan Porteous, but that set piece was not well defended. You can't have Ollie McBurney with nobody on him for miles heading that ball toward goal. That has to be taken care of. He's the most dangerous player that Sheffield United have other than Njai. And you cannot let those two players go unmarked. It's just a cardinal sin. And they had Njai marked, but they didn't have Ollie McBurney marked. He was alone. You've got to track that man. So defensively, they broke down their Watford in that moment. You cannot allow for Ollie McBurney to be all alone like that. Nobody within 10 yards of him. Heads the ball toward goal. It hits off, I think, scrambles. It hits off Ryan Porteous, and it hits off his foot and goes in. And that's the winner for Sheffield United. Again, off of poor defending. That's another reason Watford lost this game. The other reason, the third reason, is that the intensity of this team at large in the second half was not there. They had their moments. I thought there were some good things that Watford did in the second half, but they didn't do them well enough. And they did not have enough of the Watford players in the second half sufficiently battling for this game. One of the players who did, however, was Hamza Chowdhury. Hamza Chowdhury hurt his hamstring. Clearly, you could see him grabbing at it because he was grabbing at his right hamstring in the second half. Then he had to have it bandaged, heavily bandaged up. And he continued to personify what Watford football is supposed to be about. The tackles, the flying tackles, never giving up on a ball, making clearances. He was all over the pitch today, Hamza Chowdhury. Desperation lunges, blocking balls, blocking shots. That's Hamza Chowdhury, and that's what Watford football is supposed to be about. And we needed to have a full team of Hamza Chowdhurys today in that second half for Watford, and it just didn't happen. João Pedro was up for it. I think João Pedro did as much as he could do, and he was hobbling throughout the game. So you're concerned about him now. Hopefully he's going to be okay. Doesn't seem like anything serious, but he had been hobbling since he got some kind of challenge on him, and he was hobbling around a bit. So that's something to look at, and keep an eye on Hamza Chowdhury too. That's a battling performance today from that young man, and I give him a lot of credit. I thought James Morris today, he was quiet, but he had those moments down that left side. He put the ball in. The set pieces were generally better for Watford. I thought Ken Sema had some great set pieces. Loser did, but the problem is when you take Loser off and you take Sema off, who are both great set piece players today, set piece takers. Where do you go from there? And I think that was a problem. Kone came in, not quite as dynamic and as lively and as good as he was on Monday night against West Brom. But nonetheless, he came into the game. He gave away a silly foul in that second half, but it didn't come to anything. And I thought, again, that you leave on Loser. You cannot take Loser off in the 58th minute. That's my biggest complaint about this game, aside from the lack of intensity defensively for that set piece where Ollie McBurney was allowed to have a free header. And then the other one, when you're not doing the things collectively as a team that got you a good first half performance in this match. You can't be isolated. And I think that the intensity, whether it's Saw, whether it's Davis, the intensity has to be better. Now, Keenan Davis works hard, but again, he is continuing to go goalless here in these games, and the team is not scoring very many goals. So the fact is you need goals. You need wins. You need goals. Simple as. You're not going to get wins without goals. So you've got to start scoring goals now. And now Watford in 8th place, looking up at the playoffs. In 6th place, the hated lot from the M1 up north there on the N1. And there's only 12 games left now. One of them is against that lot up the M1 coming up in April. But that's down the road. We've got to look now at Preston North End, and that game is coming up next Saturday. But the thing for me today is you do not sub off a player that you start who obviously had a very good day in the middle of the park there, Imran Loser. I thought he was composed. I thought the ball moved well with him. The team moved well with the ball when he was orchestrating the movement, when he was bringing the ball up, when he was distributing the ball. He has a really good sense of floor vision on the pitch, great pitch vision. He knows where to pick the pass up, and he knows how to progress the play up the pitch, especially at Bramall Lane. By the way, that pitch is awful at Bramall Lane today. That is a disgraceful pitch. But that's not the reason why Watford lost, and the referee isn't the reason. The referee had a very good game today. That is, and I'll say it now, 2 of the last 3 games, the referee has been very good. I probably even the game against West Brom, wasn't terrible. But the game against Burnley, where Lee Doughty was the referee, and I think today it was Keith Stroud of all people who's the ref, I believe. He did a good job today, Keith Stroud. Whoever the referee was today did a good job. Not the referee to be blaming here. The thing is, Watford's intensity, knowing that you've got now 12 games left, wasn't good enough in that second half. They did not meet the intensity of Sheffield United. And that's why Sheffield United got the win. Simple as. Defending, poor. Set piece play, defending was very poor. And that's what happened. And Sheffield United are very dangerous with set pieces. And these Watford players must have known that before coming into this game today. So for me, that's where the game was lost. But the substitutions by the manager, I thought not good. If you're going to bring anybody off, it's got to be Davis. Davis has missed 2 or 3 clear-cut chances there. He's got to come off the pitch. There's just no other way around that. 58th minute, you've got to take him off. You can't worry about bruised egos. You can't worry about people's feelings being hurt. This is the business end of the season now. And so with that said, you now have to look at what is best for the team. And what is best for the team right now is to get an injection of spirit from your other players. Get their feet wet in these games. Britt needs to be coming onto the pitch a little earlier. I'm not advocating necessarily that Britt starts, but Britt Asamoah has got to be on the pitch earlier than the 80th minute or the 75th minute. He's got to come into these games in minute 60. Arouge has got to come into these games earlier. Now, there were times a few games ago against Burnley where he would come in, but the substitution pattern wasn't right there in terms of what he was doing, Slaven was doing with Burnley and the subs there. But today was the day that you bring on Arouge earlier. Bring him on at half time because you know that you're going to get a Sheffield United push. You know you're going to. And I just don't think that Watford dealt with that well enough. So that's the way this game went. Sheffield United deserved to win. Bramall Lane was very nervy that first half. Their fans were sitting on their hands. They were frustrated. They were nervous. And Watford just did not take advantage of that. That's one of the things I called for in the YouOrns Friday focus here, was that Watford had to take advantage of this situation. Sheffield United coming in had lost 2 in a row. The fans would be very tense at Bramall Lane. If you get the goal first in the game, then the fans are going to be absolutely nervous. They're going to be on the players. The players are going to feel that, and it's going to add to the pressure on Sheffield United. But the fact that Watford did not take advantage in that first half, for me, is absolutely where the game was ultimately lost. Because when you don't take these chances on the road, especially these clear-cut chances on the road, this is what will happen. It will come back to bite you. And today it did in the second half. And unfortunately, Ryan Porteous paid the price, and so did the team. The final score of the game was Sheffield United 1, Watford 0. Got to forget about this game now and move on to Preston North End. But now, 12 cup finals to go. Where will Watford finish? Playoffs or in the championship for another season? We'll see how this unfolds as we go forward. But next weekend against Preston now, another must-win game. This has been the YouOrns 10-minute take.